Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. In today's video, I want to talk about some of the good things that are continuing to happen, some of the not so good things, and where we go next from here. I want to keep this video pretty brief as not a ton of new information, but some important things to cover and keep you up to date on the ongoings at this point in time. So the first and foremost thing that I want to cover was the big signing that was not officially, but was finally put to bed by Fabrizio Romano yesterday, saying that, as we expected, Chido Obi Martin had chosen Manchester United to sign for from Arsenal. Now, this answers a few questions. There'd been stories about getting another striker still open to more strikers. And we've kind of talked about that before, and we always looked at it and thought, doesn't really make any sense because the money isn't there when we need another center back, when we need still a midfielder. There's no money that is supposed to be leveled to that when you've already spent now between Xerxes and Højlund 140 million, 130 million, maybe that's overstating it, 110 million, I would say, on strikers over the last two seasons. And you have two young players. You don't get really another one in there. You could see a winger if Sancho were to leave, but it didn't really make sense to get another expensive striker in. Chido Obi Martin makes a lot of sense. Here's a player who, and as it was put by Romano, which adds up to me, that he would be the third choice striker and that he would see that. Now, he's young, but this kid is physically way ahead for his age. He is a player who, in terms of physical levels, you probably haven't seen a player like this at United who is that physically ready, big, strong, etc. since Pogba was in the academy. And I'm not talking about talent. I'm not trying to put the heights up there. I'm talking about his physical profile compared to which age group. He's way ahead, way ahead. And he'll probably, I'm not saying he's going to play a lot this year, but maybe, he's a player who'll get that experience, right, of going with the team to some of those Europa games or being in the squad with the cup games and getting that little debut, getting that taste of the, of the first team and training with them and seeing what he can do. So really big signing for United, actually. Huge coup. And they've done, really good work in getting continuing to build on this young player aspect and get the best young talents. And so this gives us forward options, out the wazoo. Now, what does that say for Ethan Wheatley? Well, one of the things I spoke with contacts of mine about in the last week was, one of the things they're really happy with was, for instance, the sale of Alvaro Fernandez, the sale of Willy Campbell, where they did decent fees, sell-ons, buybacks. Well, they want to do more of those. And you're looking at Ethan Wheatley, potentially. That's a good route for him, who's shown that he has something. But if you're signing a player like this, then perhaps, I don't know if Wheatley is necessarily good enough for United, but I think he's a player who definitely needs to start playing first-team football soon, and this would be a good deal. Someone to do a deal like that, get $5 million for him on a sell-on with a buyback. Same goes for Facundo Pellistri. There might be more. But those are just examples, I think, that we could see on this, and frankly, could be for Toby Collier as well, if if we get that number 6 in. And I'm not, based on their assessment of him, it's not decided, as I said in the last video, that he's for sure going to stay for the long term, that he's like sold on he's the guy, he's coming in. They don't see him like that. They want to see what he can do. So I think, before the end of the transfer window, they'll make that decision whether they want to keep him as someone to make up some minutes, or if they think, okay, it'd be best for him to go out either on loan or on a buy on one of these deals would be suitable because of his age. But he needs to play. That's kind of the truth of it at his age. He needs to play. So a lot of interesting moves happening on the youth front that are painting a really bright picture for the future for United. They've got a lot of really good talents in the academy now in that 16-17 age bracket with Shea Lacey, the Fletcher brothers, with Chido Obi Martin now, that it really is exciting for the future. But also, if these players are getting into the older ages, then perhaps it's time to make more moves like Campbell, and that's something they want to do a lot of. Steve McLaren, there's been some reports that he could leave. That I think Alan Nixon reported that he was the first choice for the Jamaica international team to be a coach there. I I think if they offer him the job, he will leave. And I think that United will accept that and would not be opposed at all to that. Obviously, they freshened up pretty much the whole coaching staff. He wasn't needed enough to come on the tour. So once they're all back in together in Manchester, I wouldn't say it's like, it doesn't paint the picture of him being a future long-term member of the team. If he wants to take that job, I think they would let him go. And I think it would just be a continuation of the approach from Ineos, and especially Dan Ashworth, since he got in there, of essentially out with the old, in with the new. Another person who's departing is Dominic Jordan. He announced that himself on his LinkedIn this morning, very early, before it kind of was out there. Sounds like maybe a layoff thing. I don't know on that. I can't confirm that. But that's what it sort of sounded like. And he was brought in a few years ago as a part of data science. I feel as though very strongly, Wilcox, Barada, and Ashworth have all their own things. And they think that's how we want to run this club. And one thing that is interesting. Dan Ashworth coming in wants to be in charge. And as I mentioned in the last video, there's good and bad for Ten Hag, but I think it's good for everybody in the long run as a team, that Dan Ashworth really wants to be the guy running the club and building it. And that's why they wanted him so badly. They made that point. Dan Ashworth is a guy that they see forming this club and building it and putting it essentially in the image that he sees it. That's why they wanted him. That's what he's there for. And that applies to everybody. So data science, coaches, the head coach, the manager, recruitment, all of it. He's in charge. He is that guy. And they have ultimate trust and faith in him for doing that. So yeah, there could be certainly still more changes to come on that side of it with McLaren. And I don't know if he'd have to be replaced, but yeah, it looks like that is a sincere possibility. Now, they brought in a new coach recently, right? Another new coach. The name escapes me at the moment, but it was last week. Who was a really top set piece coach, and he's coming to do more than set pieces. So you've had 2 departures. Now you have 3 departures. Now you have 4 arrivals. So it would make sense that McLaren might be the next to go in this kind of effect after the tour. It just does. And if that does happen, then we can talk about it a bit more. But I will find out about that. So Yoro and Højlund, their injuries. I kind of mentioned or indicated a few things last video, and had said a couple of other things. And it was quite obvious there was a foot injury for Yoro, was essentially what was going around. Phil and I talked on the podcast on Monday about that, about how we'd heard it was a metatarsal injury. Believe that to be the case still. I can't say specifically that it's a metatarsal, but as it kind of aligns with our information that the reports are kind of coming out, 6 weeks for Yoro is likely. And that might, I don't know if that's 6 weeks till a full return or if it's 6 weeks till being back in full training, but 6 weeks for an injury like that is at the low end. But it may not be that serious. If it doesn't require surgery, it could be faster. Not sure. But that was the first report that came out from Custis was 6 weeks. And that was similar to what we'd heard and is the similar timeline to a metatarsal injury. And he's obviously in a boot and on crutches protecting that foot. And it was something that essentially there was like a little something that came up when they did the medical, so I've heard, and it wasn't the type of thing you do anything about really, or that you particularly you don't stop a transfer, you don't do anything, you don't even really treat it. It's sort of just, it's happened. Certain things don't require, like if you could think of maybe there was an injury that didn't get surgically fixed that you can still see the signs of, and maybe it'll flare up again, maybe not, maybe you operate on it, maybe not. Well, they didn't do anything wrong at all. United did nothing wrong, but essentially there was some little thing with that. And there was nothing you really do because it wasn't about rest or anything. It's just a risk factor. And yeah, and it's not the type of thing that necessarily, is going to carry you through the career. I mean, you think about Rasmus Højlund, he came with not a big injury, but an injury that kept him out a while with that back thing. And they just managed it and on with their day. And then he's been fine since then in terms of the back thing. Speaking of him, his injury, as expected, is not supposedly that severe, and there is a chance he would be involved by the opener of the season. Likely they're not going to rush him, but there is a chance at this point in time that he's in the team for the opener. But he'll probably, the expectation is maybe before end of next week that he'll return to training. They're not sure 100% on this, but it doesn't seem intense. And so that's more of you just keep seeing how it goes and make sure they're totally healthy. But I expect he could be involved in the opener, but probably more likely if he is, then on the bench. And that's fine because we have Joshua Zirkzee, and that's sort of the benefit of having them. And once they get back, of course, Zirkzee's already in Manchester. He's training. He's getting his fitness up. He's doing all of that. He'll be ready for the season start. So he'll probably be ready for the Community Shield. So that would be cool to see that. Moving on to the midfield, big one on this is, of course, PSG have agreed to their deal with Benfica for João Neves, 60 million euros plus 10 million in add-ons, and Renato Sanchez going the other way on loan. We needed that to essentially get lined up and done. It also tells us, of course, no, they're not going to be asking for 70 million for a player they don't want when they pay less than that for João Neves. So I expect the price and the situation around Ugarte to build up. Again, I mentioned in the last video, but once this is wrapped up, I believe in the next week or so, there's more talks between United and PSG over this move, more contacts regarding Ugarte to see what kind of deal is viable. Tied to that, which would, of course, increase the ability of the club to do a move, is Scott McTominay. And again, was still expected that Fulham are coming back in with another bid. Well, there's a report today that they're lining up around a £30 million bid. If they come in with that, there is a good chance he will move if he wants it. If Scott McTominay wants that move and they come in with 30 million, there's a good chance that that happens. And that would give us a lot of funds. I mean, a lot of funds. It would allow us to do some pretty significant spending. I mean, it's a lot of profit, essentially 30 million profit. And, that would practically cover a midfielder and a center back. So I expect that would really unlock things, and especially if we move Lindelof. I mean, I'm just going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried again for Braithwaite still. I just wouldn't. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. That being said, Euro's injury sounding not that severe, misses 3 games. It's probably not going to change the overall plan for the center backs. It's probably not going to say, oh, now we've got to go rush and buy somebody we weren't sold on. So I don't know where that leaves De Ligt at this point in time. Obviously, I think United are interested, but again, got to be a good deal from Bayern, and I could see if they sell Scott first, trying one more time with Braithwaite before doing that. They're still interested in a left-sided defender in addition to Mazraoui. No real update on the Mazraoui-Wan-Bissaka thing. It's just slowly. It's close, but I don't want to rehash it because nothing has much changed as of yet. As I mentioned in yesterday's videos, they hadn't yet agreed personal terms, and it's about those kind of discussions ongoing between clubs in order to get that done. And then I think they could get Mazraoui. But yeah, anyway, that's it there. There's not too much on that. But the Scott to Fulham concept, João Neves to PSG, opening the door for potentially Ugarte is a much bigger and more directly connected scenario. If they can get a good deal, then I think we get Ugarte. If not, then we have all these alternative targets. But let's see now when they reopen talks where PSG's stance is at following the obtaining João Neves, and let's see if in the meantime an offer comes in. Last thing I want to cover for today is, of course, the pre-match for this evening. It is a late game. It is 8 o'clock my time, so that's 3 a.m. for many of you in the UK. One moment, sorry. Yeah, so that's where it still is. Yeah, so nothing new. Everything I've said here is correct. I'm just making sure I hadn't received anything new that would change what I'd just said on any of this. So yes, tonight's game, 3 a.m. for you in the UK. If you are waking up and watching, I am doing a watch along. The link is in the description below. Sign up through there. Use the code MUPDATE, MUPDATE. Use that code below. in that link to sign up and join. It's all free. There's no ads on the platform. There's no money to spend. There's no nothing. It's a new platform. It's really cool. It's got a scoreboard. They're adding stats. They're adding all sorts of really awesome things. And it's in alpha at the moment. It's going to be launched with the Premier League, and it's something I'd like to do. And it'd be really cool to be able to watch games and show you all the stats on the screen and do lineups with tactics boards and all of that built into it. Really fun platform. You can bring people in on stages to talk. We can do that before halftime, after matches. People really enjoyed the last one. So if you're awake or you're in the States or you're in a time zone that it's suitable for you, then sign up and join and come watch tonight. Doesn't cost anything. I like the platform, and they really appreciate, they're working with me and I'm working with them to help them improve it and make it something that could be really good in the future. And I'd like it to work, and I'd like to get as much experience with people and feedback as possible. In terms of the lineup, which I want to discuss, so do that if you can. I would love to see you there. In terms of the lineup, this is kind of what I expect now. Because they didn't have the names. Obviously, if Luke Shaw here, I put Amos, but I think it's fitting. It's fitting. And then here I put Collier, but it could be Scott as well. But I think this will be the lineup for tonight. This could very much be Wheatley, keeping Sancho on the left side to keep him in his position with Anthony on the right. It very much could be Wheatley, to be totally clear. I'm just not sure. Does that mean they run Hannibal at striker in the second half, or who runs up there in the second half? So I'm just not sure how much, they want to do this. Do they switch this around? Does Rashford go to striker and Sancho to the left? I'm not sure on that, but I think otherwise it's going to be about the same. Johnny Evans will step in for Euro, most likely. I don't know if Lindelof's ready to start yet, maybe in the second half. Sure, you could see Reece Bennett or somebody come in there, but I'd expect to see more Amos. Wan-Bissaka, him being close with his move to West Ham, maybe he wouldn't. But we don't have enough senior fit players to say that he can't play, is my thing. So I think it'll be something like this, because we really want to keep building on this preseason, and we have to focus on getting the team right, and we can't just weaken it just because. We have to focus on continuing to be able to play that we want to play. We saw some really good signs in the first half. When Højlund was on, I'd like to see more of that for sure. And so, I think this could be the case. And as I mentioned, seeing if what the most they can get out of Casemiro, keeping him in a partnership and seeing how that works. But that's kind of what I would expect. So that's what I think that they'll do. So it should be an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be a bad game. And then at the weekend, even more. But that's what I have for today on basic updates. Not too long. Hopefully covers everything that's going on at the moment. Tomorrow I'll be doing tonight doing this live stream watch along. Tomorrow I'll have Riddy return for a live Q&A. It's been a little while since we've done one of those. And so make sure to watch that. And that's it for today. So yeah, use the link in the description below to sign up and join the watch along. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.